Nobel Peace Prize winners in just a moment. But first, we're going to Latin America, to Bolivia, La Paz, to speak with Pablo Solon. He is Bolivia's former ambassador to the United Nations, also served as Bolivia's chief negotiator on climate change until these latest talks. He served as the climate chief negotiator in Cancún and Copenhagen before that. And when we were in Bolivia covering the People's Summit on climate change and the rights of Mother Earth, Pachamama, he was there as well. Pablo Solon, we just have a few minutes, but you have just arrived back from Durban, South Africa, to your home in La Paz. Your reaction to the deal that was struck in Durban?
We can call this the climate apartheid in all senses. First, you know, when I was leaving the plane, leaving Durban, many chief negotiators were living with me, and the COP17 didn't conclude at that time. So only few nations have decided for the rest of the world. The second thing is that they have decided not to do deep cuts now. So we are going to see a very severe increase in the temperature in the coming years, and this will be known as the lost decade. The other issue is that the only real outcome, because it's not true that the second commitment period of the Kyoto Protocol has been adopted in Durban. That is not true. It has been postponed until COP18. But what is true is that they have adopted and secure carbon market mechanism so that they can continue even if there is no second commitment period of the Kyoto Protocol. And the Green Climate Fund has no funds. It hasn't been approved. Which source will guarantee that figure of $100 billion by the year 2020? So, in one way, it's a very empty package when it comes to climate, but it's a good package when it comes to business of carbon markets.
Can you explain how we got to this point? I mean, you occupy a very interesting position because you were inside for a long time, both as Bolivia's UN ambassador and the chief climate negotiator for Bolivia. Now, in Durban, you were outside. You were one of the activists who was there among thousands around the world. Explain to people what happened. And for those in the United States who don't follow climate change politics very much, it's considered one of the lowest rungs of concerns of people here in the United States, what even the significance of the Kyoto Protocol is, what it means to have a second or not have a second commitment period, not to mention the Global Climate Fund, which most people know nothing about.
Well, to put it in other words, we know that the temperature is increasing because there are greenhouse gases in the atmosphere. They have already reached a level that has increased the temperature in almost 1 degree Celsius. So if this continues, we are going to see a dramatic situation all around the world. The US has already suffered an impact with the Hurricane Katrina, and this can be multiplied by 4, by 6. So the key issue was, are we going to reduce greenhouse gas emissions in Durban? Are we going to have any kind of agreement to do that now, during this decade? And the result is everybody's going to do whatever he wants to do. That is the real outcome. If there would have been a second commitment period of the KP and the US would have said, okay, we are going to reduce in an amount of 20–25%, we could have said, okay, we're in a bad situation, but we are doing our best in order to get out of this. But now we can say we're in a bad situation and we are doing our best to be in a worse situation because nobody wants to do nothing. Developed countries like the US, Europe, Japan, Russia are just trying to avoid their responsibility when it comes to greenhouse emissions cuts. So that is the real outcome out of Durban, and that is why there is so much concern around the world, because especially the developing countries, the poor nations, and the poor people around the world, even in the United States, are going to be those ones that are going to suffer the consequences of this. That is why we call it a climate apartheid.
I want to thank you for being with us. Again, Pablo Solon, Bolivia's former ambassador to the UN, former chief climate negotiator at the Copenhagen and Cancun talks. Today, in this last 2 weeks, he was one of the activists on the outside of the Durban talks. This is Democracy Now!, democracynow.org, the War and Peace Report. To see our full coverage of the 2-week negotiations that took place in Durban, South Africa, we just returned last night from South Africa. You can go to our website at democracynow.org. It's Climate Countdown. This is Democracy Now!, back in a minute.